There are 18 buttons on a Pro controller, but that is way too many. So I decided to drastically lower the amount of buttons. In this challenge, every time I complete a kingdom, I spin a wheel with the controller button names, and whatever the wheel lands on, I cannot use that button. The challenge ends when I beat the entire game, and make sure to stick around to the end when I only have 3 buttons that I can use. We started the game in Cap Kingdom, and I could use all my buttons, so I just went through it like normal. After Cap Kingdom, I spun the wheel, and it landed on Y. So now I cannot throw Cappy with Y, but luckily I can still use the X button to throw Cappy. After Cascade Kingdom, we spun the wheel again, and I got the R button. This button really isn't that important, as I only use it to center the camera. Up until this point, I had just not been using the buttons, hoping that you guys would just believe that I wasn't actually pressing them. But then I remembered that you can actually go into the switch settings and disable the buttons, so you literally cannot use them at all. Stand Kingdom was chill, but I guess I didn't realize how much I actually used the R button, because I tried to center the camera a lot out of speedrunning habit, but it just would not work because it was disabled. After Sand, I spun the wheel and I got D-pad left, which actually literally just has no use in Mario Odyssey. Well, I guess technically you can use it to scroll in the shop, but other than that, it has no use. After Lake, I got D-pad up, which actually just has no use at all. After Wooded, I got pushing down the right stick, which doesn't really have much use either, except for zooming in, which I never use at all. So I had been getting really lucky here with my spins, and I still had almost all my buttons. But my luck didn't run out after that, because after Cloud, I got D-pad right, which also has no function. Then after Lost Kingdom, I got pushing down the left stick, which also has no use. And after Metro, I got the minus button, which I used to open up the map, so this is probably the worst button I'd lost so far, as now I'd have to walk to all the checkpoints and I just couldn't warp to them. But it wasn't too bad overall. Now would probably be a good time to mention the timer, which I'm sure you've already noticed. I started a timer at the beginning of the challenge, and my goal was to beat the game in under an hour and a half. The luck so far had been really good, so the sub 130 was looking rather promising. After I collected all the moons in Snow Kingdom, I couldn't warp to the Odyssey because I couldn't use that button. So I had to take this pipe out of Shiveria and walk all the way to the Odyssey, which lost a lot of time. After Snow Kingdom, I landed on ZR, which is what I primarily use to ground pound. Fortunately for me, there is another button that I can use to ground pound. After Seaside, I lost D-pad down, which has 0 use in this challenge. And after Luncheon, I got lucky and lost the capture button. And I'm not talking about captures in the game like the Goomba. I'm talking about the button to take screenshots. Well, I guess I can't take Mario feet pics now, but that's okay. At this point, I was running out of easy buttons like the D-pad ones, so this is where the challenge really started to pick up in difficulty by a lot. After Ruin Kingdom, I lost the X button. Now, if you remember all the way back in Cap Kingdom, we lost the Y button. But now that I also lost the X button, I could not throw Cappy. I could only throw him using motion controls. About 1 minute into the kingdom, I already came across a huge problem. I can't grab the wall with this Pokio because you have to use either X or Y. Also, I couldn't cap dive because you need X or Y, so I had to figure out another way to get up the wall. But I actually managed to do it, and I felt really smart after figuring it out. First, I triple jumped under this tiny ledge. Then I ground pound jumped, threw Cappy, and dove all without using X or Y. After that, I made it all the way to this point, and so I came across another problem. I had to make it all the way up there with no Pokio and no Cappy dives. I thought for a while until I came to the conclusion that it was actually just impossible to get up there. So I decided to kind of bend the rules just a little bit to make it possible. I traded out one of my buttons for another. So I traded the Y button and I spun the wheel again and I landed on L, which is also used to center the camera. So with that, I could now finish Bowser's Kingdom and make my way over to the final kingdom, Moon Kingdom. If you guys are enjoying this video so far, please be sure to check out my Twitch channel where I do all my streams so you can watch me do these fun challenges. Anyways, back to the video. On the way to Moon, I spun the home button, But apparently you can't actually disable that, which kind of makes sense because then you wouldn't be able to close out of game and you'd just be stuck in Mario Odyssey forever. So I just spun the wheel again and landed on ZO. So now I had no way to ground pound, which also means I have no way to dive. So now I could only use A, B, and Y. Just 3 buttons. I didn't think there was any way I could do Moon Cave skip, so I went to the Moon Cave. Well, now that I think of it, I probably actually could have done a spin jump, but it's too late now. The Moon Cave was by far the most difficult part of the challenge. At first, I didn't think it was possible because there was no way to uncapture anything, so I didn't think I could enter this wire. But apparently, if you go next to the wire, when inside of the dry bones, you just automatically capture the wire for some reason. I don't know why that happens, and I never knew that existed until I tried this challenge. After that, I had to do some very unique movement to get across these 2 sections of the cave. Luckily, we just barely made it past that and we arrived at a checkpoint. Then we rode a bullet bill and got to this point. I couldn't capture the football guy because I would have no way to uncapture him. So we had to do it captureless. I was just barely able to do it, and then I had 1 HP to beat Madame Brutal. And thank goodness she's like insanely easy. Then we beat Bowser and the rest was super easy, and we ended up finishing with a time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 16 seconds, just a few minutes behind my goal of sub 130.